I am speaking with Dr. Deirdre Holcroft on the subject of food loss and waste. Deirdre, why is there such an emphasis on this subject at the moment? It seems like every day there's a new article related to the subject.
Yeah, it does seem like it's very recent, and I think we finally reached the tipping point in awareness of food loss and waste, because it's people have been trying to make the public aware of it for some time, but we've reached that point. And one of the reasons is the awareness of how high this is. There's about a third of what is produced is lost or wasted before consumption. And if you put that into dollar amounts, that's about 161 billion US dollars of food is lost or wasted before consumption.
You're using the terms food loss and waste. What is the difference between these two terms?
Food loss usually occurs more at the production side of the chain, and it's unintended losses like spills or spoilage or reduction in quality, whereas waste tends to occur further down or near the consumption end of the food chain, and it's more intentional. It's food that's left behind or not consumed.
Can you give us some examples of food loss and waste in fresh produce?
Yes, if we look at food loss, as I said, it occurs more at the production end, and it's things like decay or loss in storage because of decay, water loss even is a food loss. And often it's a result of a poor cold chain, delays in cooling, no cooling at all. Or it can be insect damage, either pre-harvest or post-harvest. And even contamination with a foodborne pathogen can be considered loss. Whereas waste tends to be a result of strict grade standards. So you've got a fruit that's perfectly edible, but it doesn't meet the grade standard. Or disposing of produce that's close to its sell-by date, because people don't always understand the difference between a sell-by or a best if used by date. Even placed waste in a restaurant or throwing out food from a home refrigerator is considered waste if it's still edible food, but it's thrown out. And just to give you some numbers, in the United States, the food groups with the highest waste are meat, poultry, and fish have a 30% waste, vegetables are 19%, and dairy about a 17%.
How do we measure food loss and waste?
It's a surprisingly difficult question. Some of the measurements are done on percentage of loss. Others are done on quantity, tons of lost product. And some of it is done on what's lost of edible product versus inedible. Like, do you count the skins of bananas as food loss or waste? Some as calories and sometimes as nutrients. But I think a better way to look at it is even more holistically, where we count the environmental costs of food waste as well. Because if we're producing 30%, we've used a lot of resources in terms of water, labor, fertilizer, handling to produce that crop, and now it's wasted. So it has consequences too, in that it has environmental impacts and not just straight loss impacts.
What are supermarkets doing about food waste?
It's really interesting to see what they're doing in the UK. Supermarkets reduced their food waste by 20,000 tonnes by 2014. That's after 5 years of working on it, just by measuring the waste. We're also finding more of a market for ugly fruit or fruit that doesn't meet the grade standard. So second grade fruit doesn't look as perfect but tastes just as good. And there's a lot more considering using waste products for donations. If they're just getting close to the use by date, donations to charities, or for fuel or composting or even animal food. I visited a an apple pie company, and all of the apple pies that didn't make standards were sold actually as pig food. So that's an example. And just to give you another example, in 2016 in France, they made it illegal for retailers above a certain size to destroy or put food in a landfill. So they have to establish relationships with people that can then utilize that food.
What are produce processors doing about this problem?
Many processors are using waste products for other uses. And I've seen two really innovative examples of this in California. One is Gill's Onions, who use all of their biological waste, their onion peels and rejected onions, to produce electricity in a bioelectricity generator. Another example I've seen that's really interesting is Musco Olives, again in California, where they're going to 100% renewable production. They use their waste to generate energy. And in addition, they can't throw the saline water away because of California laws. So they use it to irrigate a grass that accumulates salt, and that grass can then be fed to animals. So innovation is a way out of this problem.
How about growers and shippers? What are they doing to reduce loss and waste?
Well, this is where the field that I work in, really we're looking at good agricultural production to reduce some of that loss at the beginning, and then good post-harvest handling practices. So harvesting at the correct stage, cooling properly, storing properly, transporting and retailing properly. So I think that's part of the chain is our post-harvest handling is a really important aspect of reducing produce loss and waste.
And what should we do as consumers to reduce our own waste?
I think we should listen to what our parents and grandparents said. They used to have a lot more consciousness about food waste, possibly because of the wars and the Great Depression. And I was brought up on that expression, waste not, want not, pick it up and eat it. Or the expression, our eyes are bigger than our stomach. So in a all-you-can-eat restaurant, it's really good to identify how much you really can eat rather than to take a full plate, throw it away. So I think it's awareness plays a big role in reducing food loss and waste, and we can all be aware of it. I want to give you an example of a program in the United Kingdom, the WRAP program, which is Waste and Resources Action Program. They launched a campaign, Love Food, Hate Waste, aimed at consumers, at households, and they managed to reduce household waste by 21% over a 5-year period, just by making people aware of what they were doing. So it's proper storage of food, making sure you eat things before you purchase the next product. And another interesting thing of that, they calculated the benefit cost ratio, and it was 250 to 1 plus the environmental impacts of reducing that waste.
And one last question. What are you personally doing, if I can ask, about this issue?
Well, my career focuses on this, and one of the projects I'm working on is a project based at Cornell called Series 2050. Oops, no, wrong year. Series 2030, where we're evaluating post-harvest interventions to reduce loss and waste in sub-Saharan Africa, which is something I really care about, coming from that region myself. But also, as a post-harvest specialist, my work is focused on reducing loss and waste, although we don't normally give it that name. So we may call it optimizing produce quality, ripening fruit, extending shelf life, ensuring customer or consumer satisfaction, reducing shrink, and improving profitability. That's really what post-harvest handling does. It reduces loss and waste, call it what you may.
Thank you very much for your time, Deirdre.
Thank you, Vladimir.